Taeho stood tall among his kind, 12 sensory appendages twitching with anticipation as he prepared the final dish for the Galactic Council's annual feast. For 15 years, he had served as head chef of the Federation's most prestigious restaurant, Stellar Flavors. His reputation extended across 17 star systems, and dignitaries often waited months for a reservation. Today was no different. His kitchen staff moved with practiced precision, each member knowing their role perfectly. Taeho's species, the Nari, possessed extraordinary taste abilities that made them natural culinary masters. His appendages could detect flavor compounds at concentrations most species couldn't imagine. "Chef, the Arcturian ambassador requests more salt in his dish," his assistant Jiwoo reported. Taeho flicked an appendage dismissively. The Arcturians always want more salt. Their taste buds are primitive. The dish is balanced perfectly. As the evening concluded, Taeho received his customary applause from the dining room. He nodded politely, feeling the familiar emptiness that followed such events. Despite his success, something was missing. After preparing over 10,000 different recipes for hundreds of species, cooking had become routine. 3 days later, Taeho received notice of an unusual arrival at the Central Hub's docking station. A small trading vessel from Earth had arrived, the first human ship to visit this sector in several cycles. The Federation protocol officer requested Taeho's presence at a welcome reception, as humans were known to place great importance on sharing food when meeting new species. Taeho agreed reluctantly. Humans were newcomers to space travel, barely a century into their interstellar exploration. What culinary knowledge could such beginners possibly offer? The reception was small, just 4 humans and various Federation officials. The humans had brought samples of what they called cultural exports, which included various preserved foods and something called music. "Chef Taeho, we're honored to meet you," said the human captain, Kim Dae-sung. "We've brought some traditional foods from Earth. Nothing fancy, just everyday items our people enjoy." Taeho nodded politely as the humans unwrapped their offerings. His appendages detected various compounds, nothing remarkable until Kim opened a small container. "This is chocolate," Kim explained. "But not ordinary chocolate. This is salted caramel chocolate from a small shop in Seoul. My personal favorite." Taeho picked up a small piece, noting its unimpressive appearance. For politeness, he placed it on his tasting pad, the special organ Nari used to process food before consumption. The first sensation was sweetness, simple enough. Then came richness from fat compounds, again, nothing special. But suddenly, something unexpected happened. Salt crystals dissolved, creating a contrast with the sweet elements. Then bitter notes from the chocolate emerged, followed by complex flavor compounds Taeho had never encountered. The combinations triggered pleasure responses in his brain that made his appendages stiffen and vibrate. The room fell silent as everyone stared at Taeho. His normally gray skin had turned bright purple, the Nari equivalent of blushing. "Are you okay?" Kim asked, concerned. "Is your species allergic to chocolate? We should have checked first." "No," Taeho managed to say. "It's extraordinary. How do you create these flavor combinations?" The humans exchanged confused glances. "It's just chocolate," another crew member said. "Good chocolate, sure, but nothing special." Taeho couldn't believe their casual attitude. "You don't understand. The combination of sweet, salt, fat, and bitterness should clash horribly. In most species' cuisines, these would be contradictory signals, potentially indicating dangerous food. Yet somehow, they create harmony." He tried another piece, analyzing more carefully. "There are at least 17 major flavor compounds interacting here, creating entirely new sensations. How did your species discover this?" Kim shrugged. "Trial and error over centuries, I guess. Earth has thousands of regional cuisines. This is just one simple treat. Thousands of cuisines on one planet?" The entire Federation database contained only 412 distinct culinary traditions across all known spacefaring species. That night, Taeho couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the chocolate and what Kim had said about Earth's food diversity. The next morning, he arrived at his restaurant early and announced he needed 3 days of personal leave, something he had never requested in 15 years. He spent those days researching Earth's cuisines, learning about concepts like fusion food, comfort eating, and guilty pleasures, ideas that didn't exist in Federation culinary science. The more he learned, the more he realized his entire understanding of food was incomplete. On the 4th day, Tae-ho knew what he had to do. His appendages trembled slightly as he drafted his resignation letter. He was going to Earth. Ji-woo stared in disbelief at her boss, who had locked himself in his private food laboratory for the 7th straight day. Through the transparent door panel, she could see Tae-ho working frantically, his 12 sensory appendages waving in patterns that indicated extreme concentration. "Chef, please," she called through the communication system. "The restaurant has received 3 calls from the Galactic Council. The Chancellor's birthday celebration is in 2 cycles, and they need to confirm the menu." Inside the lab, Tae-ho barely registered her voice. His workspace was covered with small containers, each holding different variations of his attempts to recreate the human chocolate. Around him, specialized equipment analyzed molecular structures and flavor compounds. "Not now," he replied without looking up. "I'm close to understanding the cocoa butter crystallization process. The humans use something called tempering that creates a specific mouthfeel." Ji-woo sighed. Since tasting the human dessert, Tae-ho had abandoned his duties at the Federation's most prestigious restaurant. The staff was managing daily operations, but important decisions needed his attention. Tae-ho carefully heated a small batch of brown material, his appendages monitoring temperature variations too subtle for machines to detect. When the mixture reached precisely 32 degrees, he spread it thinly onto a cooling surface and waited. The result looked promising, glossy and smooth like the human original. He broke off a piece and placed it on his tasting pad. Disappointment flooded through him. It was close but missing something essential. The flavor lacked depth, the complexity that had made the human chocolate so remarkable. "Why," he muttered, reviewing his notes. He had identified all major compounds, matched the proportions exactly. What was he missing? The laboratory door slid open as Ji-woo overrode the lock using her emergency code. "Chef, this has gone too far," she said firmly. The restaurant manager called. 3 distinguished guests left yesterday when they learned you weren't personally preparing their meals." Tae-ho barely looked up. "Do you know humans have a concept called terroir?" he asked, ignoring her concerns. "It means ingredients carry flavors from their growing environment. The same plant grown in different soils produces different tastes. It's brilliant but makes recreation nearly impossible without the original materials." Ji-woo's frustration softened as she noticed his exhaustion. The normally immaculate chef looked disheveled, his skin a pale gray from fatigue. "You've become obsessed," she said gently. "It's just food." Tae-ho's appendages stiffened in disagreement. "Not just food. It's something more. The humans have discovered flavor principles that contradict everything in our culinary science." He showed her his research tablet. "Look at their flavor pairing theory. They deliberately combine tastes that should conflict, sweet with salty, spicy with sour. They even have foods they describe as so bad they're good. Their entire approach defies conventional wisdom." "But why does this matter so much to you?" Ji-woo asked. Tae-ho was quiet for a moment. "For 15 years, I've created what everyone calls perfect dishes. Nutritionally balanced, chemically harmonious, exactly calibrated to each species' preferences. But when I tasted that chocolate..." He paused. "I realized I've never created anything truly surprising. Nothing that could make someone's sensory system respond with joy rather than just satisfaction." Over the next few days, Tae-ho exhausted his small sample of chocolate. He contacted the human ship, but they had already departed the central hub. With determination, he bribed a dockmaster for their travel records and destination coordinates. His research expanded. Earth had over 10,000 documented regional dishes, from something called pizza to kimchi to mole sauce. Most remarkably, humans didn't just eat for nutrition, they had emotional relationships with their food. They used terms like comfort food, stress eating, and guilty pleasures, concepts without equivalents in Federation dining. "Ji Woo," he announced one morning, "I need to go to Earth." "What? You can't be serious," she replied. "Your contract with Stellar Flavors runs for another 3 years. You have obligations to the Council." "I've made my decision," Taeho said quietly. "I've already drafted my resignation." That evening, Taeho met with the restaurant owner, a wealthy Centaurian who had built his reputation on having the most celebrated chef in the Federation. "This is about that human suite, isn't it?" the owner asked after hearing Taeho's resignation. "It's about more than that," Taeho replied. "It's about discovering a new approach to my art." The owner's compound eyes narrowed. "I'll double your salary. Triple it." "It's not about money," Taeho said. "I need to learn what the humans know." 3 days later, Taeho boarded a transport vessel bound for the Sol system, carrying only essential belongings and his cooking tools. As the ship pulled away from the central hub, he felt both fear and excitement. After 15 years at the peak of his profession, he was becoming a student again. His last view of the station was of Ji Woo watching from the observation deck, waving goodbye with her 4 arms. He wondered if she understood that he wasn't just leaving a job, he was pursuing a revelation. The transport ship Cosmic Voyager traveled slowly through space, making numerous stops at trading outposts before reaching the Sol system. Taeho spent the 3-month journey studying human languages and customs. He focused on learning English and Korean, which the ship's database identified as major Earth languages. His fellow passengers found his obsession amusing. A veteran space trader named Ji-suk, who had visited Earth twice, often joined Taeho at meals. "Your pronunciation is improving," Ji-suk told him one day as Taeho practiced greeting phrases. "But why are you so interested in humans? They're barely a blip in galactic affairs." Taeho's sensory appendages waved thoughtfully. "They understand something about flavor that no other species has discovered. I need to learn what they know." Ji-suk laughed. "You're giving up being the Federation's top chef to study primitive cooking? Humans still use actual fire to prepare food." "Perhaps that's part of what makes their food special," Taeho replied. As the ship approached Earth, Taeho spent hours in the observation deck, watching the blue planet grow larger. It looked unremarkable, just another water world. Hard to believe it contained culinary secrets worth crossing the galaxy for. The ship docked at New Bangkok Spaceport, Earth's largest facility for off-world visitors. Stepping onto the boarding ramp, Taeho was hit by a wall of unfamiliar sensations. Earth's gravity pulled slightly stronger than he was used to. The air felt thick with moisture and carried hundreds of scents his appendages struggled to identify. A young human woman holding a sign with his name approached. "Chef Taeho? I'm Sun Mi from the Interstellar Visitors Bureau. I'll be your guide until you get settled." Taeho bowed in the way his research indicated was polite. "Thank you for meeting me." As they walked through the spaceport, Taeho was distracted by the crowd of humans rushing past. His research hadn't prepared him for the remarkable diversity, different skin colors, sizes, and clothing styles all within the same species. "Is this your first time on Earth?" Sun Mi asked, noticing his wandering attention. "Yes. Everything is intense." She smiled. The sensory input can be overwhelming for first-time visitors. "Let's get you to your accommodation so you can rest." They boarded a ground transport vehicle, a taxi according to Sun Mi. As they moved through the city streets, Taeho couldn't focus on Sun Mi's orientation information. His attention was completely captured by the small food stalls lining the roads. "What are those?" he interrupted, pointing at a row of carts with steam rising from them. "Street food vendors," Sun Mi explained. "They sell quick meals to people passing by." "Outdoor cooking? In public?" The concept was shocking. In the Federation, food preparation was done in controlled environments to prevent contamination. "Would you like to try some?" Sun Mi asked, noticing his interest. Before he could answer, his sensory appendages stretched toward a particular stall, detecting an irresistible aroma. "That one," he said decisively. The taxi stopped, and they approached a small cart where an elderly human stirred something in a large metal pan. A sign read Pays Authentic Pad Thai. 2 portions, please, Sunmi ordered. The cook worked quickly, throwing ingredients into the hot pan with practiced movements. Taeho watched, fascinated by the casual precision. No measuring tools, no molecular analyzers, just hands, heat, and ingredients. When the cook handed over 2 paper containers, Taeho carefully placed a small portion on his tasting pad. The flavor was nothing like he expected. Heat from spices, tanginess from lime, sweetness from what his appendages identified as palm sugar, and a deep savory note from fermented fish sauce. The textures were equally complex: soft noodles, crunchy peanuts, tender proteins. Sunmi stared as Taeho's normally gray skin flushed purple. "Are you okay? Is it too spicy?" "It's perfect," he whispered. "The balance of contradictory elements. How is this just street food? This should be served to planetary leaders." The cook, overhearing the translation from Sunmi, grinned with pride. 50 years of practice, friend. No shortcuts. Taeho couldn't respond. His appendages trembled as tears formed in his eyes, a rare physiological response for his species. Sunmi led him to a small bench. "Take your time. First food experiences on a new planet can be emotional." "If this is casual street food," Taeho finally managed to say, "what must your finest restaurants serve?" "You'll have plenty of time to explore," Sunmi assured him. "Your residency permit is good for 5 Earth years." Taeho nodded, still overwhelmed. Looking around at the bustling street scene, humans going about their daily lives, surrounded by food aromas that would be considered treasures in other star systems, he knew his decision to leave everything behind had been right. "Tomorrow," he said with newfound determination, "I need to learn how to cook with fire." The Global Culinary Academy stood tall in the heart of New Bangkok, its modern glass facade reflecting the morning sunlight. Taeho approached the entrance, clutching his application materials. After 3 months on Earth, his language skills had improved, but he still felt nervous. Inside, students from across Earth hurried through the hallways. Taeho was the only non-human applicant this term. His 12 sensory appendages twitched anxiously as he waited outside the interview room. "Chef Taeho? Please come in," called a voice. He entered to find 3 humans seated at a table. The woman in the center introduced herself as Director Min Seo, head of the academy. "Your application is unusual," she began. "You were the executive chef at Stellar Flavors, the most prestigious restaurant in the Federation. Why would you want to study here as a beginner?" Taeho's translator device converted his words to clear Korean. "Humans have created more culinary diversity on one planet than exists in the entire Outer Rim. I was the Federation's most decorated chef, but here, I am a novice." The panel exchanged glances. "Can you even use our cooking equipment?" asked another interviewer, Chef Do-hyun. "Your physical form is quite different from ours." "I've been practicing," Taeho replied. From his bag, he produced a set of modified cooking tools he had custom-made. The handles were designed to connect with his appendages. "Very creative," Min Seo noted. "But there's a more fundamental issue. Your species processes flavors differently than humans. How will you know if what you're creating tastes good to us?" Taeho had anticipated this question. "My appendages can detect flavor compounds at a molecular level. I may experience taste differently, but I can identify precisely what humans will experience. I've been studying the chemical reactions in your cooking." To demonstrate, he asked for samples of several spices from the table. He touched each briefly with an appendage. "This black pepper contains piperine, which creates heat sensations for humans but registers as bittersharp to my species. This cinnamon contains cinnamaldehyde, which humans perceive as warming and sweet but I experience as cooling and pungent." The interviewers looked impressed. "One last question," Min Seo said. "Our program is intense. Many students drop out. What makes you think you can succeed?" Taeho's appendages stilled in a gesture of seriousness. "In 15 years as a Federation chef, I created technically perfect dishes that never surprised anyone. After one bite of human chocolate, I left everything behind. I am not here just to learn recipes. I am here to understand how humans transform eating from nutrition into joy. 2 weeks later, Taeho began classes. The challenges were immediate and numerous. The kitchen stations were designed for human height and reach. The instructors spoke quickly, using cooking terms his translator struggled with. Worst of all, he couldn't taste dishes the way his classmates could. His first practical exam was a disaster. Asked to prepare a simple French omelette, Taeho forgot that humans couldn't tolerate the high cooking temperatures his species preferred. His omelette was burnt black on the outside, runny inside. Failed, Chef Do-hyun marked on his evaluation. Start again tomorrow. For 3 days straight, Taeho practiced omelettes in his small apartment kitchen. He recorded the exact molecular changes in the eggs at different temperatures. By the 4th day, he could tell precisely when the proteins were perfectly coagulated just by observing the surface vibrations. His next attempt earned a grudging acceptable from Chef Do-hyun. As months passed, Taeho's skills improved dramatically. His understanding of molecular gastronomy gave him advantages in food science classes. His ability to detect minute flavor changes made him excellent at adjusting seasonings. Where he struggled was with cooking techniques that relied on human senses, like listening for the right sizzle or feeling when dough was properly kneaded. By his 2nd year, Taeho had become something of a celebrity at the academy. His unique perspective often led to innovations. For his midterm project, he created a system for mapping flavor combinations across species, showing how tastes that pleased humans might be modified to delight other beings. During his 3rd year, he began specializing in fusion cuisine, combining techniques from different Earth cultures with elements from Federation cooking. His thesis project, Universal Flavor Principles, attracted attention from both human and alien food experts. For his final practical exam, Taeho prepared a 10-course meal that told the story of his journey. It began with his recreation of the chocolate that had changed his life and culminated in an entirely new dish, a dessert that combined Earth's chocolate with fruits from his home world, prepared using techniques from 5 different human cultures. As the examination panel tasted the final course, Minasio's eyes widened. "This is extraordinary," she said. "You've created something that couldn't exist without your unique perspective." Do-hyun, who had been his toughest critic, nodded in agreement. "You came here to learn from us, but I think we've learned as much from you." When graduation day arrived, Taeho received not only his diploma but an offer to join the Academy's research department. As he stood on stage, looking out at his human classmates, he realized his education had given him something more valuable than cooking skills. He had discovered that great food, on any planet, was about connection. The Federation's central hub looked smaller than Taeho remembered. 5 Earth years had changed his perspective on many things. He stood at the viewing deck of the transport ship, watching as the massive space station grew larger in the window. Nervous, asked Junho, his human assistant who had accompanied him from Earth. Yes, Taeho admitted, his sensory appendages twitching slightly. The Federation Council rarely grants audiences to individuals, especially for something they consider trivial like food. Behind them, the ship's cargo hold contains 6 large containers. Inside were cooking equipment, preserved ingredients, and climate-controlled cases of Earth foods too delicate for standard preservation methods. This collection represented Taeho's life work over the past 5 years, and the foundation of his ambitious plan. After graduating from the Global Culinary Academy, Taeho had been appointed Earth's first alien culinary ambassador. The position was created specifically for him after several diplomatic officials tasted his final examination meal. They recognized the potential of food as a diplomatic tool between species. The ship docked at the central hub's diplomatic section rather than the regular passenger terminal. This small courtesy had been arranged by Taeho's former assistant Ji-woo, who now worked in the Federation's Cultural Affairs Office. "Taeho! You've returned!" Ji-woo rushed forward as they disembarked, her forearms gesturing excitedly. "You look different." Taeho's normally gray skin had taken on a slightly bluish tint from years under Earth's sun. He had also adopted some human mannerisms, like nodding instead of the traditional Nari head tilt. "The council meeting is tomorrow," Ji-woo said. I must warn you, they only agreed as a courtesy to Earth's government. Food diplomacy isn't taken seriously here. That will change after they taste what we've brought, Junho said confidently. That night, Taeho and his team worked in a borrowed kitchen to prepare for the presentation. His human colleague Minji carefully unpacked special ingredients while Taeho tested the kitchen equipment. The heating elements run too clean, Taeho noted. Earth cooking benefits from slight imperfections in heat distribution. We'll need to modify these. By morning, they had prepared a carefully planned 12-course meal. Each dish represented a different Earth region but was subtly modified to appeal to the various species on the council. The council chamber fell silent as Taeho entered. Many recognized the former celebrity chef who had mysteriously disappeared 5 years ago. Some looked curious, others dismissive. Distinguished council members, Taeho began, his translator converting his words into 6 different languages simultaneously. 5 years ago, I left my position as the Federation's highest-rated chef because I discovered something revolutionary about food. Today, I wish to share that discovery with you. The council president, a tall being from the Centauri system, looked bored. Chef Taeho, while we respect your enthusiasm, the Federation faces serious matters of trade, security, and diplomatic relations. How does cuisine factor into these concerns? Food is not trivial, Taeho replied. It is the most fundamental form of cultural exchange. Before I explain further, I ask you to experience what I've discovered. Assistants wheeled in the first course, a simple rice dish prepared 6 different ways to match the biological preferences of each council species. Rice is a basic grain on Earth, Taeho explained as they ate. Humans have developed over 40,000 varieties of this single plant, each with distinct characteristics. The council members ate politely but without much interest. The second course, various broths and soups, received similar reactions. By the 5th course, however, Taeho noticed a change. The Arcturian representative, known for his sour temperament, was leaning forward eagerly as each new dish arrived. The Proximan delegate, whose species rarely showed emotion, had her color-changing skin shifting to pleasure hues. The 8th course, a fusion of Korean and Indian spices with proteins designed for non-oxygen breathing species, caused an outburst of surprised appreciation from the Regelian ambassador. How did you create this flavor? She demanded. Our biochemistry shouldn't respond to Earth compounds this way. The principle of complementary contrast, Taeho explained. Humans discovered that opposing flavors can enhance rather than cancel each other. For the final course, Taeho served the same salted caramel chocolate that had changed his life, modified for each species' biology. As the Federation president tasted it, their speech appendage quivered visibly, the equivalent of gasping in their species. Perhaps, they announced after a long moment, humans have more to offer the galaxy than we realized. 3 months later, the Federation approved the Earth Federation Culinary Exchange Program. Taeho returned to Earth to establish training centers for both human and alien chefs. Within 5 years, Earth became the galaxy's premier culinary tourism destination, with visitors from 17 star systems arriving daily to experience its flavors. In the bustling market district of New Bangkok, Taeho's cooking academy trained chefs of all species. Above its entrance hung a simple sign showing Earth's continents formed into the shape of a universal cooking flame. Below it, written in 12 languages, were the words that had become Taeho's motto. Different beings, different tastes, same joy.